You want to talk about an anticipated movie of the year? I'm pretty sure Cloud Atlas is one of them. So you know what? Let's talk about it finally. Cloud Atlas. So Cloud Atlas isn't the story of something, it's many stories spanning many centuries. Cloud Atlas is written and directed by the Wachowskis, which you'll remember them from The Matrix, and a few other things. They've more or less been producing now, but they were like, alright, let's get in touch with the guy who did Run Lola Run, and we'll write and direct a movie with him that's like 3 hours long. Luckily, the point of Cloud Atlas isn't the individual stories, so I don't have to explain the stories to you. The point of Cloud Atlas is showing how everything is intertwined and everything's connected, but it's spanning centuries. It's big on the whole reincarnation concept, so something you do in one life back here will affect your later life hundreds of years from now. That's pretty much the point of Cloud Atlas. And it stars a lot of people. Tom Hanks is pretty much the main star of this movie. Tom Hanks and Halle Berry. Hugo Weaving. The kid from 21. I don't know his name. To me, he's the kid from 21. And in a movie with such big scope, there is a huge contrast in between people who have seen it. People either consider it the modern art masterpiece of our time, or they consider it a piece of shit. Cloud Atlas is like the Resident Evil 6 of movies. Funny enough, they've both come out at around the same time. Some people love it, some people hate it. You get a few different stories that intertwine, but in Cloud Atlas, it just spans, you know, centuries. And that's a bold move, and that is cool, but you can't base the movie just for the fact that it's bold. There are people who are like, yeah, well, I'm not quite sure what I think about it. You know, it's bold, and I don't know. If you think that, I'll make it easy for you. You hate the movie. It's true. It just is what it is. And let's be honest, trying to jump from one skyscraper to the other is a bold move. Doesn't mean it's gonna end well for you. So saying making a movie that's the scope of Cloud Atlas is a bold move doesn't really do anything for me. The movie is like 2 hours, 45 minutes to 3 hours long. It's a long movie. So movies like that, I'm like, oh, right, we'll see. But it actually had me interested. I had to piss through the entire movie. I never got up once to go do it. Why? Because I felt like if I got up, I'd miss something important, and I'm probably right about that. You gotta have your thinking cap on in this movie. You gotta go into Cloud Atlas and just know that you're going to have to pay attention. Take a day or so to really think about the things that happened, you know, how things here affected things there, how events spanning centuries actually ended up coming to a head way in the future. I mean, that stuff, I consider that cool. I like that stuff. Is it done in the smoothest of ways? No, it's not. Sometimes you're like, this movie's a mess. It's not always a mess. It's not like it's a 3-hour mess, but there are moments where it'll show like one timeline for about, 1 minute. Literally it's 60 seconds. Then it'll jump to the other one and show that for about 2 minutes. Then it'll jump to the other one and show that for 15. So it's a little uneven sometimes. It makes you feel like you're just snapping your head back and forth. It makes you cinematically dizzy. But I felt they did a good job at keeping the tones uniform. Like in the scenes where someone has to escape from something, it'll bounce back to one of the other stories in one of the other centuries where someone's escaping from something also. Then when the fights break out, it'll bounce back and forth between a couple of fights. And that's good. You can't have a couple different stories bouncing back and forth with completely different tones. You can't have the sappy love story bouncing back and forth with like war, unless it's one of those really cool war scenes where everything's in slow-mo and everyone's just like, "You'll never get me, Joe." That can be cool. Other than that, try to keep the tones together. They did a surprisingly good job with that, so that impressed the shit out of me. The acting's really good in the movie. I mean, if for nothing else, I don't think this movie's going to sweep the Oscars, but Tom Hanks was awesome. Seeing him in about 7 different roles in this movie, you're like, yeah, I get you. You're still a great actor. But I will say not everything in this movie's relevant. There are moments where you're like, that just seemed like it just wasted my time. Why did they even show that? Not that it's like a bad thing. It's not like the moment is bad. It's interesting stuff, but you don't feel it really feeds into the other stories spanning the centuries. The relevance of some of these moments is just kind of lost on me. Did Cloud Atlas have to be 3 hours long? I don't really necessarily think so. It being 3 hours sometimes makes it feel really indulgent, like they were like, oh hey, you know what, we're gonna do our epic and it's gonna be awesome. And no one's gonna tell us no one's gonna tell us what to do. I think they could have illustrated the point of Cloud Atlas without it being damn near 3 hours long. And I don't really see the point of using the same actors to play different characters across the centuries. At first I was like, oh yeah, because they're supposed to be their reincarnated selves, right? But I'm not quite sure about that, because there's this birthmark that you see on someone. Then one of the other centuries, someone else will have that same birthmark, so you're like, oh, okay, so that's the same person's soul. I get that. But when Halle Berry has it in this timeline, and then say the kid from the movie 21 has it over in this timeline, but Halle Berry's also in that timeline, is Halle Berry the reincarnated soul or the one with the birthmark? I don't know. Sometimes I felt like the movie tried to be both. It's like, oh no, sometimes they're reincarnated and they look the same. Other times it's it's the birthmark thing. Bummer is they cake makeup on people and try to make certain people look like different ethnicities, and it doesn't always work. They're like, oh, Hugo Weaving, we're gonna need him to look Asian in the future. That makes sense. Put the makeup on. He doesn't look Asian. He looks like a white guy wearing makeup to make him look Asian, which just looks weird. In the course of seeing the movie, someone I know got up and left the movie. He was the one I thought would love the movie. The dude I thought who would hate the movie ended up loving the movie, and another dude was like, I really don't know, which means he probably hated it. Is it the modern art masterpiece of our time that people are hoping it is? It is definitely not. However, when a 3-hour movie can entertain me and I'm invested in the characters and you see everything connecting and it's really awesome, even though it is a little sloppy sometimes, but it's not always sloppy, I will say Cloud Atlas is a good time, no alcohol required. So who would you like to have been in a previous life? That's a good question for this one. Me? TJ. You kidding me? Thomas Jefferson all the way. Why? Complete badass genius wordsmith. What's not to love? Whoever you'd like to be, comment below, let me know. Anyone says Attila the Hun? Well played, psycho bastards. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.